So, yes, welcome to this small discussion on especially on the situation in Ukraine, but especially on the point of view of the civilian population. But I think we'll have time with Oksana Tshelysheva to talk a bit more about also the maybe wider political context. But my name is Teemu Matinpuro. I'm the executive director of the Finnish Peace Committee, and Oksana Tshelysheva is Russian, but based in Finland, a human rights journalist. But let's go directly, and maybe I could tell a bit about Oksana, who has been just spent this spring several months in Ukraine, both in the self-proclaimed republics of the East, but also in the other parts of Ukraine, but especially in the eastern Ukraine on the war zone. So, and just returned back from Ukraine a couple of days ago, and so has very fresh things to tell about the situation in the eastern Ukraine. But when we start with this humanitarian situation in the eastern Ukraine, and especially the civilian population, so maybe you could highlight a bit about the latest experiences that you had there, and also maybe because you have spent so many months or so much time this spring, that has there been some sort of developments for better or worse concerning both, of course, the war, but especially the civilian population, which is there in the middle of this civil war?
Well, actually, this focus on the situation with the civilian population has always been my priority in all the trips which I've made to Ukraine so far since July last year. And unfortunately, the tendency is for the worse. First and foremost, because of the continuation of the armed activities, because all these Minsk agreements, both one and the first and the second, have been violated, and according to the OEC monitoring mission in Ukraine, so actually they have fixed violations by both sides. But at the same time, well, and it results in huge masses of people trying to flee the area. At the same time, so it's necessary to point out specifically that those who had means to flee, they did it long ago. So there's the remaining population in the eastern part of Ukraine are either those who decide to stay there because they want to keep their houses safe, or those who don't have means or don't have relatives to move to in other parts of Ukraine or in Russia. So all in all, the number of IDPs, but I would call them refugees. So it's really millions of people, and so there's the problem with those who have left the eastern part of Ukraine, the area in combat, to other areas in Ukraine, is also very complicated, because there are such problems as actually very weird decision by the central government in Kiev to not support these people. I can give you just two very small examples. In Zaporozhye, I personally got a request from city officials who work with the department of social benefits and children's protection, and they sent me an official request for help to two particular IDPs from the eastern part of Ukraine, young girls of 16. they explained to me that actually there is no way to organize a state or city support to them, like financial benefits and medical or health care, all these kind of basic things, because their relatives were at home and they traveled. They were sent by their relatives to Zaporozhye, just for safety, but all alone. One girl was staying with their sister of her grandmother. The other girl was rescued actually by the neighbors from the small town of Kharkiv in Donbass. And she was sharing, she was staying together with the family of people who actually she doesn't know. So so city officials, they told me, that the only way how to organize state support to their 16-year-old girls would be to deprive their parents of custody over them. On what grounds, I asked them? Well, because according to the Ukrainian law, parents should stay together with their children and provide for their medical care and for their schooling, and to educate them and to be responsible for them. But I explained, excuse me, how come? So their parents sent their daughters away from them because they are reliable, responsible parents, because they wanted their daughters to live in a safe place. That is the only, if there was no war, actually they would never send their daughters to live far from them for half a year. Yes, and those officials told, yes, we understand that. We don't want to go through this procedure. But what we can do, there is a law. And so they requested to organize some private support to these particular girls, which I've been doing for several months already, thanks to the help of other private people from different countries. And now these girls have some means, they have some clothing, and they have money to pay them or to their medicines. So this is a very simple case. But actually, if I start telling about other examples, about other people's fates, about disabled people in Odessa region who have been also evacuated from the east of the country, about women sick with cancer, with 1, 2, 3 kids who were abandoned by their husbands as soon as they learned about diagnosis. And now, so these women also from the east of the country, they can't get any money from the state, yes, because there is no program in their health system to provide for these women. So that's the only way for them, is either to wait for the final day of their life or to do something to ask people for help. So, and these are just smallest examples of the problems which common people are facing in Ukraine at the moment. The other thing is this very much criticized decision by the central government in Kiev to stop paying social benefits and pensions for those people who are over the border. So the division line between Ukraine and the self-proclaimed republics. Although it has been criticized by all international bodies, including Council of Europe, so Kiev doesn't respond to this criticism. And actually, since November last year, these areas have been technically cut from all the payments. So, and by saying that, you should remember that, for instance, among those people who Kiev has renounced as their citizens, are, for instance, disabled children, heavily disabled children in the orphanage in the town of Krasnodon in Lugansk region, which I visited on several occasions. There are 160 children there, all with very severe diagnosis. 40 of them are bedridden. So these children, also according to the law, have the right to receive pensions. It's something like 1,200 hryvnias, which equals to now 50 euros. So they haven't been receiving this money since July last year. So the only way for these kids to survive is private donations, both from Russia and also from Ukraine. But now there is another problem, because there are huge problems in having this humanitarian aid collected, raised by private people to be delivered to people in need. Well, first and foremost, it's from the Ukrainian side, it's because of checkpoints and special kind of permits, also for people to travel from controlled and uncontrolled zones, and also to deliver humanitarian aid there. From the Russian side, there is also a problem. I know that for sure, that apart from these famous white humanitarian convoys, which officially Russia regularly sends to Ukraine. So there are huge problems with humanitarian aid collected by Russians on a private basis. So this humanitarian aid is stopped on the Russian side of the border because the Russian border guards demand huge number of papers actually authorizing their transit of those humanitarian convoys, private humanitarian convoys, and also permits issued by the Ukrainian bodyguards, which is not possible according to very obvious circumstances which now exist between this at this part of the border. And when, for instance, I was in Lugansk in December, I witnessed myself a very huge, a very loud scandal because there were 5 Russian drivers who had been stuck at the Russian border for something like 3-5 days. And they had humanitarian aid to deliver to Lugansk. And Lugansk has always been in a lot more difficult situation than Donetsk. Actually, when you speak about the self-proclaimed republics, you should bear in mind that there is not so much connection between these two entities. Because Donetsk People's Republic, to some extent, has always been in a lot positive situation. So while Lugansk has been a lot more, I would call it anarchistic, but actually there was no control whatsoever. There were rulers in every particular settlement. They were Cossacks, they were different military units, and there was no clear command or whatever. So there's the situation in Lugansk has always been a lot more difficult, and actually it has always affected their situation of the civilians in Lugansk.